Hello, it's Darren Moor, and this is the How to Survive Your Police Career podcast. In today's podcast, we're going to look at that issue of not being able to sleep because your brain won't switch off. You know what I'm talking about. You're all tucked up in bed knowing you need to sleep, but that sleep isn't happening because you're too wound up with problems from work. Maybe some griefy incident, a bit of trauma. Or perhaps it's just your case files and crime reports, those inquiries that you never get a chance to do. Or maybe you've got a Crown Court case kicking off in the morning with you in a starring role. Or there's that complaint that's just been served on you. Especially as, damn it, you know you've actually done something wrong this time. And then, of course, we sometimes find it hard to switch off because of that general gut feeling of things to do. And of course, this is only your work world. We're not even talking about your private life and all those problems as well. It's grim, isn't it? And we need some way of switching off into sleep so that our brains can do the clever stuff of making sense of it all. Because often, after we've had decent sleep, we realise that things aren't so bad anyway. It's only when laying in the dark that everything seems like a catastrophe. So, here's some practical solutions for you. These are all techniques I've used in the past when I've been in your exact situation, having these exact thoughts. And they do the job. Some are more wacky than others, but they all work through the same principle of giving your brain something else to think about instead of those seemingly unsolvable problems. In fact, let's start with a wacky one to kick us off. We're going to do some singing. Yup, you did hear that right. Singing. Think of a song where you know all the words. Ideally something nice and slow. This isn't the best technique if you're only into heavy metal or something. What you really want is something with a slowish beat and a relaxing tune, and lasting perhaps 2 minutes or so from beginning to end. Maybe one of those old Beatles songs that they used to make you sing at junior school. Or maybe I'm sounding a bit old when I say that. Anyhow, when you realise you can't sleep, then start mentally singing. So, not out loud. You don't want to go scaring your partner. That song to yourself, pronouncing each word slowly and clearly in your mind. And then keep on singing that song over and over again until you drop off to sleep. Now, obviously, it's not quite as simple as that, because after a minute or so, those problems so determined to wreck your sleep might decide that you've had a long enough escape and so demand your attention again. They'll try and break in on your singing, but don't let them. Force them out of your mind once more and concentrate on the tune. Show 'em who's boss. In fact, make a game of it. When you get to the end of the song, start it again, or move on to another song. Have a non-sleeping playlist if you want. If you focus properly on the words and forcing out intrusions, I suspect that you'll be dropping off into La La Moo Moo by the end of the second or third run through. It sounds a bit peculiar, doesn't it? But try it. It does work. And what have you got to lose? I wouldn't tell your partner though, because they probably think you've gone a bit odd. This might have to be just between us. All right. The second technique which I employ is a variation of the classic counting of sheep method. But, not wishing to associate sheep with being cosy in bed, I simply count backwards from 1,000, forcing myself to visualise, and this is important, properly visualise, each number in turn. What the number looks like, its curves and lines. Again, anticipate that whatever's bugging you will try and force its way back inside your mind, but don't let it. Force it back out again and concentrate on the counting and that visualisation. After the first 10 seconds or so, you'll probably get lost and have to start again. But that's good because that means that you're concentrating on something other than those problems that you've got. So just start again. Oh, and let me know if you ever get down as far as 900. I never did. Now, of course, bear it in mind that the basic reason you can't sleep is because you're riddled with all that anxiety. What we really should be discussing here is a relaxation technique. And they are very good, even if they're not the easiest things to describe in a podcast. But, well, let's give it a go. And you're going to have to concentrate. However, if you're driving at the moment, or anything else that needs your wits about you, then be aware that this technique will make you feel lightheaded. So don't do it when you're driving. In fact, it's best to be laying down before you practice it. Before you go woolly-headed and then fall down because it's working so well. So, having got the disclaimer out of the way, let's have a look at the technique. The first thing you need to do while laying on your back is to listen very carefully to your breathing. Now encourage that breathing to slow down. Once it's steadied, Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 3, but channel that breath so that you notice your tummy pushing out in front of you, as if you're encouraging a little balloon to expand in your stomach. You want your tummy to expand instead of your chest. So, shall we give it a go? I'm going to count for you. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Then breathe out through your mouth for a count of 5 as opposed to 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then just carry on doing this while listening to your breathing and concentrating on the physical sensations around your body. Let's go through it again. But you promise me you're not driving, are you? Because this technique will naturally lower your blood pressure and make you feel lightheaded if you're doing it properly. That's why it's a good idea to be laying down when you do this stuff, or at least sitting down. So, quick recap then. While laying on your back, listen very carefully to your breathing. Now encourage that breathing to settle down. Then, breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of 3, channeling the breath so that you notice your tummy expanding as opposed to your chest. Then breathe out through your mouth for a count of 5. And then just repeat over and over again while listening to your breathing. Again, as with the other techniques, there will come a time when all those horrible issues that are troubling you will want to gate crash all that serenity and happy place you've just created. Like some idiot with a big exhaust pipe on their car. But force them out again. Just concentrate on your breathing and getting the technique right, because it's brilliant once you get into it. In fact, it can be quite addictive. And you can even use this technique at work when it's all going wrong. That's why they've got all those quiet rooms. They're not just for sleeping in on nights. Feel free to increase the length of time breathing in and out as you become more practiced. But the important thing is that the in-breath should always be shorter than the out-breath. And remember that you're filling up that balloon in your tummy as opposed to your chest. Another variation is breathing in slowly for 4 seconds, holding your breath for 4, and then breathing out slowly for 4. Sometimes I find it good to alternate between these different methods because it makes you concentrate more. Again, you may feel lightheaded when you finish, but don't worry, as this is entirely natural, and of course, as this is a sleeping podcast, you're supposed to be in bed anyway, so it doesn't matter. In fact, you want to feel lightheaded, don't you? The final technique I found really successful is designed around the fact that whenever you can't sleep, your partner lying next to you will of course be having the best sleep of their lives, won't they? So what you do is take advantage of that by focusing in on their breathing and copy it while inflating that balloon in your tummy. They breathe in, you breathe in. They breathe out, you breathe out. And you carry on doing that until you fall asleep. And the usual rules apply. If the evasive thoughts come back, then just tell them to shove off. I've got my partner's breathing to monitor. All these techniques, I find, work equally as well, although the deep breathing one is probably the best, as it's thought to calm the vagus nerve, and so reduce stress and lower blood pressure generally. You never heard of the vagus nerve? Ah, it's a delight. Every bobby should know about the vagus nerve. By the time you listen to this, I may even have done a podcast on it. Have a look. But failing that, there's an article on my website, howtosurviveyourpolicecareer.com, where I describe it in all its wonder. In fact, on the website, you'll find all kinds of podcasts and articles on different health and welfare subjects for bobbies, and details of my books on police health and welfare. Yeah, this is the sales bit. So, what have we got? Well, we've got the main health book for bobbies, How to Survive Your Police Career, everything an officer needs to know about eating and sleeping around shifts, mental and physical health, how to avoid infection and injury, what to do if you do get injured, cancer, diabetes, female health, eyesight, ethnic health, fire and water safety, even teeth care. Avoid those big dental bills as you get older. In fact, everything you'll want to know as a bobby. And it's an easy read with a lot of humour. And we've got the one for new officers, How to Survive Your Early Years as a Police Officer, which has got loads of information and tips to avoid, too many disasters in those early years. And finally, we've got the one for your partners, How to Survive Your Relationship with a Police Officer. Loads of practical advice for keeping your relationship on track, even though one of you is doing the most bizarre job in the world. Remember that we're always keen to work with any police services, federations, or other organisations that would like to buy the books on licence. Or we could produce podcasts on particular subjects if you wish. Anything is possible, so just give us a call. But anyhow, that's enough for today. Thanks very much for listening, and to all police officers out there, stay safe and be lucky. Bye-bye.